there, and welcome back to Hold and Modify, YouTube's most poorly produced, underproduced Amiga program. What are we going to talk about today? Well, in continuing with my kind of pseudo podcast style videos, we're going to talk about something that I like to call, we did this to ourselves. Now, what does that mean? By the way, in the background, I'm just going to be doing Amiga stuff in the background. It's not important. It's just background content. We did this to ourselves. Yes, we did. And what that means is that, well, we're going to reboot the Amiga. And what I'm going to talk about in this really short video, and yes, I promise this is going to be a short video. In fact, it's going to be so short, I don't even think you'll see an ad. What have we all done to the Amiga? Now, when I first got into rediscovering the Amiga, it was probably back around, probably around 2004, 2005. And when you think about it, think about that now. That really was not that long after a lot of us had to leave Amiga, right? Like Commodore went out of business in the 92, 93, 94 era, somewhere around there. I know somebody will dive into the comment section and correct me, but yeah, it was around then. So 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, that really wasn't that far along, after the demise of Amiga. But that's when I started to notice Amiga again. And I was like, you know what? Like a lot of people from that era, I kind of just put everything in the closet, or I sold it. A lot of us, I actually sold a lot of that stuff. You know why? We sold it because people were willing to pay money for it back then, and we wanted new stuff, and we were willing to part with it because we wanted the cash. We wanted money to buy the new stuff. The new stuff is exciting, right? Yes, it is. So I didn't think about it much. It really wasn't on my mind. It's like, here I am, I'm using computers, I'm doing my day job. Didn't really think too much about Amiga, but man, I think I want to I think I want to go down that. I want to go back to that. I want to, I've got a career, I've got a job, I've secured myself financially, as any productive adult should do. I want to go back and play around with that old Amiga stuff, right? Because that's what helped get my career going. And I went on eBay, and oh my gosh, it was so cheap back. It was just cheap, right? It was so cheap. Like, I would go on eBay and I'd type in Amiga. First off, if you typed in Amiga in eBay back then, nothing showed up. You have to Commodore Amiga. You had to check the whole thing out. Amiga 500s for like $50. Yeah, you type in Amiga 500, they'd pop up for $50. Buy it now, works, verified, shipping free, or shipping $25, that kind of thing. Then you might click on, well, Amiga 500 was cool, but I had an Amiga 3000. That was the computer I actually used. How much is an Amiga 3000? Amiga 3000. Oh, $140. $140 for an Amiga 3000. Functional, works. Some of these folks, even back then, had noticed that they needed to take the batteries out, and they'd be like, the clock doesn't work because I removed the battery. Okay, that's cool. $140. Amiga 4000. $150. Yeah, that's the era we were in. And the problem is that because it was so cheap on eBay, I just didn't pay attention. I got to stop using the word we. When I say we, that implies everybody. That implies group think. I'm not trying to do that to you. I'm not trying to, what's that word that everybody uses, gaslight you? No, it's not group think, okay? I thought that the Amigas were cheap. If I ever wanted an Amiga, I could just go ahead and get an Amiga. I go on eBay for $150, get an Amiga. I didn't. I let those Amigas go by on eBay, and the time moved forward. And 5 years later, like 5 years, so like 2012, maybe, 2012, 2013, I go on eBay to look for an Amiga because I'm like, you know what? I really want an Amiga now. I didn't do it last time. I want to get it this time. And all of a sudden I noticed something. Well, the Amiga 3000 is now $200, $250. I was like, oh, wow, okay. Well, that's interesting. And I didn't really think much about it. And I actually bought one. I bought one and I got one, and it was like, okay, all right, well, $250. got the Amiga. I got it home. I played with it, loaded it up. It worked fine. It was fine. You know, there was no problem with it. It was fun. I, loaded up some old games. I loaded up Lightwave. Of course, I loaded up Lightwave, and I was like, Amiga, this is cool. And then I sold it. I sold it for like, gosh, I think I sold it for like, oh my gosh, on eBay, I think I sold it for around, I sold it for less than I paid for it, like $190 or something, right? Like $190. It was crazy. Flash forward to 2016. 2016, all of a sudden something weird happened. I don't know why. This is before, this is before the bug, right? I know we're all like, well, Q in 2019 or 2019, 2020, the bug happened and everything got weird. Yeah, this is before that. 2016, I was able to come into a possession of an Amiga 3000 again, and an Amiga 4000, by the way. And I noticed that on eBay, when I was going to fix them up, so I was going to fix these computers up and sell them for a friend. And I noticed the prices on eBay had gotten a little weird. Like now an Amiga 3000 was $300 to $400. Amiga 4000 was around $500. And I'm like, well, that's really weird because it was only a couple years ago, people were almost giving these things away. Like you could go onto eBay, like I said before, find an Amiga 500 for $45 or $50. An Amiga, 3000, 2000 for $100, $150. Like what's going on? Now let's skip forward to, by the way, look at this. This is Sequest looking stuff, right? Isn't this awesome? The Sequest. The stuff I'm showing you, by the way, is in Lightwave, of course, because that's what I do. I'm a Lightwave person. And this Lightwave stuff is included with the toaster content post version 4.0. So if you're wondering, Q, what are you doing here in the background as you're babbling about eBay Amiga costs? This is toaster version 4.0 and forward right here. Here you go. Anyway, so then I go on to eBay, and I'm going to flash a bunch of examples in front of you right now. So please don't freak out when I flash these examples. But, and by the way, if any of you are the people listing these auctions, this is not me slamming you. Look, you're just doing what the market demands, right? You're selling the stuff for what people are willing to pay, apparently. So look at these prices now. This is where we're at. Okay. These are the prices that people are paying for Amiga. And the crazy thing is, these are almost the prices, or actually in some cases, these are the prices we paid for the Amigas back when they were new. And in most cases, these prices are higher than the prices we paid when the Amigas were new. And I get it. It's the demand, the rarity, all that kind of fun stuff. By the way, so look here closely. Look at my little pointer. See these little horizontal lines here? Zoom in, hit pause on the video. Right here, look at these lens flares. See these little horizontal lines you see right here? These like little gaps, looks like scan lines. Guess what that is? That's field rendering. Field rendering. Oh, yes. A terrible, terrible thing that I talked about before and got so much grief about. We're going to go ahead and turn that off. Click. Bye-bye, field rendering. And I'll go ahead and render that again. I've shown you those images on eBay. Yes, those are, as of 2024, those are like the most recent, images I've been able to find, or auctions I've been able to find on eBay. And yeah, they're not great. It's pretty sad. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are thrilled and happy to find an Amiga for those prices, I guess. And they get that and they're really super happy. And then they get it. And of course it has issues. It doesn't work. It needs it needs to be recapped, or the battery's leaked everywhere, or, they got it and then the floppy drive doesn't work, but everything else works. Look, see, the horizontal lines are gone. No more horizontal lines. Field rendering, gross. I hate field rendering. We don't need to do it anymore. We're all progressive now. No more field rendering. Yes. So anyway, that's all I wanted to do. This is one of these kind of, again, podcast style Q rants about stuff. And yeah, Amigas are really, really expensive now, and they're getting more expensive and more, I don't want to say rare. It's not that they're rare. It's just everyone is holding on to them. So everyone who has an Amiga is holding on to them, and they don't want to sell them. So the people that do get them and sell them often are people that are just like, well, they've gotten to that point where either there's somebody who bought the Amiga because they were curious and then they checked it out and they're like, okay, that was fine. And then they sell it, or people hold on to them and eventually they realize, well, I've got too many, so I'm going to go ahead and sell it. And they put it up there, and it's, you know, it's a demand market. People will pay the price for it, as you can see from those auction listings. Now, some of those auction listings, there's no bids, like no one's actually bidding on that stuff, but some of them they are. Some people are like, yeah, okay, I'll pay $1,500 for an Amiga 1200. Good for you. Glad you have that. That's awesome. But I really wonder when we're going to finally hit that, you know, that, I don't know, what is it? The apex or whatever you call it, the climax, where finally people start realizing that, gosh, you know what? This was a great memory, but it's not worth that, right? The other weird dark side of this is that a lot of us that care about the Amiga, that are willing to pay those prices, we're getting old, right? And we're getting old, and a lot of us start dying off. We start disappearing and vanishing. And eventually, people that are left will put their Amigas up on eBay, and no one's bidding on it. No one cares because they don't know what it is, unless they happen to watch this channel or others like it. And then maybe, just then, they'll say, you know what? That Amiga's worth it. Q told me how awesome the Amiga is. Chris Edwards told me how awesome the Amiga is. Douglas Compton told me how awesome the Amiga is. And damn it, I need to have one. Thank you for watching. I'm done with this video.